Hello, my name is Tyler Thomas, and I'm here today to discuss work I'm doing at the University of Massachusetts Amherst with Dr. Sophia Al-Hassan in the Pediatric Physical Activity Lab, or PPAL for short. Our research focuses on physical activity interventions that reduce pediatric obesity and related diseases in low socioeconomic status ethnic minority populations. These populations are adversely affected by many health outcomes at higher rates than others. Recent estimates suggest that 17%, or almost 1 in 5 children in the United States, are obese. While in most populations this number has stagnated in recent years, African American girls remain one of the highest and fastest growing populations affected by overweight and obesity. Overweight and obesity are associated with several negative health outcomes, with type 2 diabetes mellitus being the most common. Predictors for diabetes risk, like fasting insulin levels, usually increase with obesity status and are important signals for a need to intervene before diabetes progresses. Increasing physical activity is one possible strategy that can reduce overweight, obesity, and insulin resistance through a specific biochemical pathway. In normally functioning cells at a resting state, the glucose transport protein, GLUT1, functions independent of insulin and transports glucose via hexokinase 1 into muscle cells. When glucose levels are high, such as after a meal, insulin production is stimulated, activating a secondary pathway via the GLUT4 transport of glucose into muscle cells. Infections, obesity, and inflammation can alter the flow of glucose through these pathways by inactivating enzymes involved in the GLUT1 pathway product production and the inhibition of the GLUT4 pathway. Once chronic, this can develop into insulin resistance and the inability to break down and store glucose when glucose levels are elevated. During physical activity, muscle contraction stimulates the transport of blood glucose into muscle cells for energy processing and production. Exercise stimulates the production of more GLUT4 to levels that overcome its inhibition and therefore can elevate glucose transportability. Physical activity can also increase fat oxidation, which leads to the reduction of adipose tissue over longer periods of time and downregulates the inhibition of the GLUT4 pathway. Physical activity can therefore be a way to combat early signs of metabolic disease. My research focuses on finding strategies to reduce such risk through the pathway of physical activity increase, obesity decrease, and insulin resistance reduction. For this project, I am examining the Mothers and Daughters Dancing Together intervention, or MAGNET, introduced in 2012. MAGNET was a randomized control, culturally tailored dance program for African American girls and their mothers. 3 days a week for 12 weeks, participants attended 30-minute dance activities. Before and after the intervention, blood samples were taken and processed for measurement of fasting insulin levels. Assessing this specific relationship may implicate the role of physical activity on changing insulin levels and future health predictors for African American girls. It will also examine the effectiveness of MAGNET and the appropriateness of its design and dosage. This project will ultimately provide new insight in how to best target populations disproportionately affected by obesity, diabetes, and other negative health outcomes. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this video.
Created using Powtoon.